Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Tudor Winter, and I'm the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. First, a small request. I have become independent and I am now building up my podcast company. Therefore, I am right now looking for proposals and projects that could be interested in attaching my podcast to the communication and dissemination activities. Go to my website, thegrant.eu, and send me a message if you want to hear more about how to work together with The Grant. And now the episode. I love to have people in the podcast that are helping and supporting stakeholders to access EU funding. There are always interesting aspects to cover. This week I have a university research project support office in the virtual podcast studio. Project managers Martina and Svenja Talv from FAU or Friedrich-Alexander-Universität in Bayern in Germany are the only two persons supporting the full university and its research teams towards EU funding. Naturally, that is quite some task. I invited them in to share how they have built up the support function and how they complement each other with their different strengths and capacities. Further, we zoom in on their support on the Postdoctoral Fellowship work program on the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions. This is a wonderful conversation where my guests open up and share insecurities and thrills as research managers and the joy of working together in a two-person team. Please enjoy. Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. Now, today I have two guests, and this is an example of again LinkedIn outreach. This is again an example of me throwing fish lines into the flood that LinkedIn is flowing by. The river of LinkedIn to drag in guests that could be of interest for the show and for you, my dear listeners out there, of course. And welcome, Svenja, Martina.
Thank you very much. We're happy to be here.
Thank you.
If I recall correctly, Svenja, we had an exchange because you complimented the show or something like this.
Yeah, I think I did. I told you that I think it's great that you had that content and that I was recommending it to my colleagues that are working in that team.
And there we go. Then you get on the grant.
Right, that's the entrance ticket to the grant, obviously.
Exactly. Now the idea is I always check out if I get often if someone they reply actively to what I do, I say so. I check what people are doing, and if it's interesting, I can ask if people want to be on the show. And then we had a meeting, and then you were very worried that you wouldn't have anything interesting enough to share. Now I'm gonna share something with you, both of you. It's very common when I talk to my upcoming guests that they're worried that it's not interesting enough. But my byline for my company name is "There's always something to talk about," and indeed there always is. So we sat down and we carved out that it would be a good idea to have a conversation about how you build up your support function in the research institute, and looking a little bit specifically into postdoctoral fellowships because you've been working a lot with that. Now, that was a very long fly-in. Normally, it's not that long. But first, let us have you two presenting yourself, and you can do it exactly. Normally, if I have females always first, but here you can choose yourself. So please.
Okay, so I go first. My name is Svenja. I've been working as a EU liaison officer at Friedrich-Alexander-Universität Erlangen-Nürnberg, very long name, for 2 years now, and I'm part of the EU Research Office, which means that I'm doing pre-award support, and I help researchers to improve their proposals to receive EU funding in the best case. And we organize trainings, webinars, And it's also part of our work to follow EU policies and inform our researchers about latest trends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Martina. I'm Svenja's colleague in our EU research office. I've been working as EU research manager at FAU for now 6 years, and I'm very happy that Svenja joined the team 2 years ago. We have a lot of fun together, and I appreciate that we share the passion for EU. And I think I can speak for both of us when I say we like what we are doing, and we like the idea that we can support the European idea from our little desks.
True.
Well, you gotta need that smile when things get rough around call deadline, right?
Yeah. Plus, I make her do fun things like joining podcasts, and you gotta have colleagues like that.
Whenever research teams get absolute furious about whatever about EU funding, no. Thanks. Now it's just short fly-in. We already talked a little bit about it. We're going to talk about, because this is something that I really want to do with this show. And I've been already doing it, sharing getting into the machine room of how these things work in both universities, industry, whatever. So here it's about how research management support, how it works out in the real world in research institute. You have Fraunhofer, big CEA in France, but then you have smaller research organizations like yours. And it's very interesting, and for my listeners, interesting to understand how, with maybe not so much resources, you build up these things to give them some critical mass and tips on how to work with these things. So that's why it's important. And then, of course, postdoctoral fellowships. It's very interesting for all research organizations, right? Especially universities. But do you have a few words yourself to say on the fly-in?
Well, I could talk a little bit about what postdoctoral fellowships are, if that's interesting to the listeners.
Do that, yeah.
So, actually, I'm really excited to talk about them because, I don't know, they're like a little baby of mine in that sense that I really enjoy consulting people on those, because mostly for the researchers that are eligible for that funding line, it's the first time that they apply for EU funding. So they're always in desperate need of help, and it's really fun to work with them. They're really open. So what that means is that it's a funding line for early career researchers, mostly a few years or just after PhD. And it's for those that want to pursue career in research, but also meant for those that want to be in the industry. And I think it's really a good package because it gives them opportunity to work on their skills as well, not only on research, but of course it's mainly for research. And yeah, I'm a fan of that funding line, but I'm not the only one. So I think we're going to talk about success rates maybe later on. So it's getting more and more competitive every year, it seems. And it's challenging, but it's also very fun to work on, in my opinion.
Thanks. Let's just bridge right into the team setup and how you're working, because now here in the rundown I have you sharing a little bit about your backgrounds and how it's complementary in the work they do in the team. But can you share a little bit with the listeners on that?
Yeah, should I start? So I have a background working in different EU research offices. So right before I joined FAU, I was at University of Bonn, also in the research office. So I have experience from a very similar university, actually, like size-wise and also like focus on research. So I think that's an advantage. Plus, I started my career in EU research support at the Alfred Wegener Institute for Polar and Marine Research, which was quite different, honestly, because the research topic is so focused and you knew all your researchers, and which is quite different at a big university, of course. So I think this gives me a very, two very different sides and very different point of view, sometimes a little bit crazy idea for university support. And And plus, like maybe going a little bit further back is that I hold a master's degree in European studies, which is also sometimes beneficial if you want to navigate in the EU funding landscape. Right.
And
what's yours?
Yeah, I like to call it, I'm a European plant. I started like Svenja with a master's degree in European studies. And after my studies, I moved to Brussels, where I worked for the European Commission for 7 years. And after that, I changed to the national level and joined the EU department in the German Foreign Office in Berlin, where I stayed for then 2 years. And when I joined FAU, I did EU research support, both pre and post award.
So regarding team setup, this is very beneficial for me that Martina has this experience in working at FAU for so long, because like as a newcomer, I've been there for 2 years now, but in the beginning it was great to have someone that could tell you about culture in a different place, about who to talk to, and yeah, just bring you together with the right people, which makes it like so much easier to start. So this is something that really helped me. And then of course, having that first-hand experience in Brussels is great for me, because she knows the game, let's say so, how people behave and what they do, and it for me it just took away a lot of that like initial fear to engage with them and set up meetings, and so this has been great for me, and I have been learning a lot from her in that regard, and was great.
And I'm very happy that Svenja brings in her experience from other research institutions. It's incredibly useful that she has this outside view in this very specific field that is EU research support. So Svenja brings a valuable contribution and knowledge about how others work and do things. And we both have experience in post-award support. So we think this is very useful when advising researchers, as we know how the work in an EU project actually looks like in the end.
Yeah, that's true. You avoid a lot of mistakes that maybe people do that have never had that experience in that sense. Yeah.
Are you stuck finding a consortium preparing a proposal for a specific EU funding call? Well, based on my 17 years of EU funding scouting experience, the grant now offers a proposal scouting service helping you to find proposals under preparation for the calls you want to join. Go to thegrant.eu, check out the service, and send me a message. The Grant, more than a podcast. Thanks. But we need to set the scene a little bit. So what we're actually looking at here. So size of your research, how the institute, the research organization, when you started, when the idea was to, first steps to set the office up. Can you sort of set the scene?
So we are a full university with 5 faculties. We have about 40,000 students and about 60 professors, with a strong focus on research. And in the end, it's about 3 years ago that the university leadership took the decision. It was like a political decision to invest and set up the EU Research Office, and an EU Research Office that is dedicated exclusively to pre-award research support. So about 2 years ago, the pre- and post-award has been split, and I basically started alone setting up the office. I was very happy that Svenja joined soon after, because it's so much more effective to work in a team, and we finally decided on the strategy together. First, we had to define our objectives in agreement with the university leadership, of course. In our case, the objectives were basically to have more and better EU proposals. So then we decided on the way forward, which are the steps we would want to take. What instruments do we have at hand, or which ones do we want to set up, and with whom should we talk?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the beginning we were also reflecting a lot on what we think is best practice and how we can implement that with, as you said, limited resources that we have. It's only the two of us, so we kind of have to see where to start and what's worth tackling at the moment, and not get lost in everyday tasks, kind of. So, yeah. But it was great in the beginning. We had a lot of freedom to think about how we want to do that. And then, of course, it got more and more into like hands-on work. But I really appreciate that we had the opportunity to sit down together and think about what we want to do and how we want to do it. So that was great.
Yeah. I almost finished with my research management short series I'm doing together with Stephanie from RWTH Aachen. It's the ICT Institute of RWTH Aachen. And there we also talk about building up their capacities, right? Building up a function there. Now there we sort of, in the conversation about the structure and organization, it was beneficial for them that there was at some point of time a hard threshold from management. Yeah, so because they also had some freedom in the beginning, but that got into a lot of chitty chat. Yeah, and so they, concrete steps of moving forward. That was sort of to get a frame. Management was sort of facilitating that. But how was it in your end? Because it's everybody does it differently. How to build things up.
I think for us it was a kind of a natural process in that sense that they of course gave us a lot of freedom in the beginning. But then, of course, they have expectations. I mean, they're not hiring two people because they like it so much that we're talking about EU stuff in our office. So that was just a natural thing that with the meetings, kind of it more and more got introduced that we have some performance indicators that we also have to meet at some point. But I think it's, or I hope we have a realistic estimation on when you can really measure the success of something, like setting up something like this. But it's getting more and more into that direction. And I think it makes sense. Like we are not afraid of that in that.
As you said, our first priority really was internal networking and to find our place in the existing structure of the university, and to define the working arrangements with colleagues that we are closely working with, like the post-award services and the national research support, or the research support services at the faculties. So we did a lot of work talking to people, really. We wanted to get to know other internal services, for example, ethics, export control, open science, data management. In the end, that it was really rewarding, all this work, because we wanted to be able to provide a comprehensive service to our researchers, and therefore we wanted to understand what their services are. And to know when to connect our researchers with these services.
So how far are you in that now to get under your own skin? 40,000, that's a lot. But so 5 research institutes, that's okay. Yeah, that's a certain limit. But you have research teams. Do you know the number of total research teams?
No, honestly, I don't.
I don't know.
No, but it's a big work, right?
Yeah.
So it's that's the big, because the institutes, okay, you can talk to management.
It is.
They can they guide you on who to talk to, but then getting down to the PI, to the individual researcher and the research team that would need that specific support. That can sometimes be
that's true.
A long, winding road.
That's definitely a part of the challenge, because we had a big promotional tour around the university to present ourselves and our services.
Yeah.
We went to plenty of faculty meetings.
Honestly, I couldn't
committees.
stand talking about me any longer after that. It was like we were talking so much about ourselves there, like presenting ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
we placed articles and newsletters, the intranet. This was a lot of work and a challenge, and it's still an ongoing job because we feel that more people would maybe submit an application if they would know they are not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, what we still plan to do is at the FAU, we have so-called profile centers. They are really like focusing on research, so we want to target them as well. And we already made a start and presented ourselves to one of them, but there are some more to go. So we're still not finished with our promo tour in that sense. Yeah.
So how far are you in sort of streamlining your processes? Because everything has to be put into a frame. You have to say, okay, for when we do this kind of work, then you sort of standardize things a little bit, internal descriptions of how to engage yourself. Have you set up sort of a system? How far?
Yeah, so we defined our service package for the researchers. So the support we would like to offer from the first idea to submission. And this was a lot of work because we wanted to think out of the box and get as much input as possible. So we did a lot of networking. We took part in a staff week in Helsinki. Hello to Helsinki, if you're listening. We met other EU research managers from all over Europe, and this was really inspiring, and we got many great ideas. So this is like one example of the sources we used, how we did this, set up this service package. And this is basically what we are now promoting, that we have this, that researchers can choose from this package. So I think we like the huge strategic work or conceptual work is done. We still have plenty of ideas, but we started now with daily business and did a lot of workshops and started to receive the first proposals really to sit down and read.
Yeah, and actually it's getting harder and harder to execute all the strategic things that we have in our plan, because we have a board that we're sharing together with tasks, and then there we have a long bucket list kind of that we stuff we still want to do, and we now seeing that it gets more and more day-to-day work, and we really have to discipline ourselves to really look at that board and do some of the stuff that is on there and not get taken away by reading proposals all the time. So it's hard to balance that actually. So because of course you want to help everyone, but then there's still stuff that we want to work on for our strategic goals. So
because the strategic part is helping you to help in the long run, right? And then you have the people knocking on your door continuously that you also need to.
That's it.
Yeah.
Ready. I'm Thomas Brent, and you should definitely listen to The Grant because it is the best podcast on European funding. Listen to it, give it a 5-star rating, go.
Amen. And now that's a fine bridge to, because some of those knocking on your door, they want to do postdoctoral fellowships.
A lot of them, actually.
So let's just move into the next section, because it's going to put some examples onto what we're just talking about here on building up your capacity, right? So share a little bit because postdoctoral fellowships, I haven't had it yet. And it's incredible after almost 200 episodes. So just, I have been touching upon the MSCA, but other corners of it. But maybe you share why this came into focus and a few words about what it is.
So actually, why it came into focus is pretty simple, because there's just really high demand for support for this funding line. So we noticed even like in the very beginning when I joined, and like actually almost nobody knew about our services yet, but still somehow postdoctoral fellows knew and they were contacting us. So these were kind of like the first wave of questions that we were getting. So we noticed that first there is like high need for support in that, and that they're really grateful. So it was kind of like an easy start for us to consult people. And so in the first year, we had like a handful of proposals that we were working on, but then we noticed kind of the same issues that you have with almost all EU funding proposals, that like people come too late, and then it's like almost impossible to help them anymore, because like what can you do 2 days before deadline? So this was something that we of course noticed, and then almost all of them had awesome ideas, but we're struggling with putting them into like structured and convincing proposals. So we thought that this was a great way to start, and then we were thinking about how we could support them better in the next year. And what we came up with was luckily in Germany we have a lot of like external support, and one support organization is called COVI. Greetings to COVI at this point. And they are offering something that is called Postdoctoral Fellowship Masterclass to selected universities. So you have to apply for that, and then together with you, they organize a workshop pretty much that is half day, almost full day. And they help you a lot with the content, and they are there to do the breakout rooms and stuff like this. So I will talk a little bit about the setup of the workshop later. But what it means is that we were trying to structure it a bit more. And of course, what we had in mind was that we get to the people that apply for the postdoctoral fellowships earlier in the process, so that we can help them better and train them better for the whole thing. And that was our initial idea.
Yeah, because here you research managers, you're translators. Yeah, you are in the intersection between the money that is being handed out and the people who wants to get the money. So here you basically here we have a lot of people with, there's a pain here. Yeah. We get a lot of people who wants to do this, but the translation they don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, or they don't know how to deal with that properly. Yeah, so it's exactly stepping into that translator role here. So that's well done. How did you attack that after? So you realized this and you start to help, but so did you? So COVID was the first place where you took external training.
Yeah. So maybe I can talk about a little bit more how that worked with COVID. So what we did basically is, so first challenge was to start with that. How do you even get in contact with those people? Because what we wanted to do is reach them earlier. So we actually didn't know who they are, because they are not necessarily already at FAU at that point, or actually it's standard that they are not. So we had to get in touch with them. So what we did was we were writing an email to all our researchers actually and asked them who is a supervisor for a postdoctoral fellow, so that they can then forward. So we kind of had to do a little extra work here to get in touch with them. But we are kind of like testing everything at the moment, and we were surprised how well that worked actually. And we got a lot of registrations and a lot of interest. So what we did was also, and that's maybe challenge 2, identify those that are really eligible for applying. So we kind of had to be really critical and take all of those out that are not eligible in that sense, that they don't have a PhD yet or stuff like this. And then in the end, we ended up with about like 15 to 20 people. And what was third challenge was to get all of them attend a workshop at the same time, actually, because some of them were from Australia, some of them were from Asia, and so we really had, I'm not exaggerating if I say we had people from all over the world. So that was tough, and it was a little bit funny in the end, actually. Some of them were there at 5 a.m. their time. Some of them were really late in the evening. So that was actually really interesting to see, to organize that. And then we had our last 12 applicants that were attending the workshop, which I thought was a great number because we had 3 people from COVID. So we had about 3 to 4 people in the breakout groups. And what we basically did was that we were trying to bring them up to speed regarding all funding regularities before we did the workshop, because we really wanted to be a workshop to work on your proposal already. So what we did was sending them a lot of material before. We advised them to join those call opening events. And then like this, we were making sure they know about what they are getting into actually. And then we took the template and took some of the aspects out that are usually a challenge for them and try to work with them on that already, not in a way that they were writing on their proposal. That was too early, of course, but they were reflecting on what is meant by that point. Open science, gender, impact. So all these categories sometimes are new to them. And I think, or from what we got as a feedback, it was great for them to talk with peers and in a very informal way about what is expected here. And it helped a lot of them to already see what is the expectation from the template and what do I need to think about if I want to propose, or if I want to send in a proposal for this funding line. Yeah.
So it's good to have peers.
Yeah.
Experienced people. Yeah. It's always good, the tennis trainer. Yeah, you have someone experienced that sort of take you. It's because this is there's a lot of experience behind in this world. If you have not done this before, there's so much lingo. There's so much knowledge inside. Yeah, inherent inside this that when you know it, it's you navigate. But when you do this first time or even second time, sometimes you think, what's this? What are they talking about? How do I attack this? So yeah, it's that's indeed a good idea. Now, this masterclass, is that something that you have then something that you're doing now? Are you doing it on a regular basis?
Well, we plan to. So this was the first trial this year, and there were, as I said, we were testing the format a little bit, and we were satisfied in a way that we saw there's a need for it. All the people that signed up were there, and they were there for the whole workshop, which is not a given thing anymore. So
Exactly.
they really found it interesting, and I got a lot of positive feedback on that. We were expecting maybe a little bit more in terms of how many of those people would hand in a proposal later on, because you have a quite high dropout rate in that sense, because our workshop webinar was in the beginning, when the call opened. So it's time until they hand it in, and some of them, of course, drop out in the process. So in the end, I would say it was half of proposals that I read that attended the workshop and proposals that we received later on that had never heard of the workshop. I don't know how that happened, but so maybe my expectations were a little bit higher in that sense, but I would still rate the workshop as a positive thing that we want to repeat. And that was interesting because we were just on a staff visit in Madrid this week. So and I was talking to colleagues there that kind of have a similar format, and they said that they are handling it that way, that they only read proposals of people that attended the workshop, which I thought was an interesting idea. I don't know if we can execute that 100%, but still maybe communicate it in a way that we would be happy if they would attend the workshop in order to get feedback on their proposals. So we're maybe rethinking the format a little bit, but it was definitely a successful workshop, and nice to know the people before, already have an idea of what they're planning. And I think for those that attended, it was also nice to see who we are, have a face already, know that we are also just people that you can talk to, not somebody like very distant in the EU research office. And so I think it made it much easier for them to contact us later on. So it was useful in that way too. Yeah.
Did you tailor anything after? Did you sort of put a hook in them? So post workshop, so to say, to follow them, make sure there was some sort of follow up or sort of following them. So what was actually happening?
Well, I tried to engage with them as much as possible. The time is not like very long from call opening until submissions. So what I was doing was kind of whenever I got new information, let's say the very useful handbook was published that they always bring out for the postdoctoral fellowships, then I sent them that and told them like, here you find more information, get in touch. Some of them actually contacted me directly with some specific questions. And then we also, for example, have text modules that we prepare for them. So I kind of tried to engage with them as much as possible. And we were also that was also maybe the first time that we did that, setting clear deadlines until when we're going to receive proposals and until when we're going to read them. So yeah, we kind of like communicated with them on a regular basis. That's what we did.
Let's just, before we move on, let's just take a look at that. Where do you actually help them low practically? So do you help them with reviewing their text? Do you help them with, how far does your help go?
Well, it's actually quite a clear distinction. We are not writing for them, but we are reviewing text. And I was also offering this time to review multiple times if somebody was that early, that this would be possible. But unfortunately, no one was. Yeah, I was dreaming a little bit, but there maybe. I don't know. But still, so we are reading the proposals. We give detailed feedback, written and also in form of like a video call afterwards, where we go through the comments together and discuss with them what is meant by that. What do I actually mean if I say you need to make your impact more detailed or whatever? So this is, pretty much what we offer.
And we also would redirect them now to our internal services, like for example, we just recently learned about the dissemination possibilities at the university. There are quite some central services, and this was actually just on time and very helpful for the postdoctoral fellowships as well.
Yeah, or another example would be we have a graduate center, and they're offering a very large course offer with different like proposal writing, but also like leadership courses, stuff like this, which is good for them if they want to set up their training activities and their training plan for the proposal. So we also inform them about that and give them a list of courses that they can choose from to make their proposals more credible and more like detailed. So stuff like this we also help with, yeah.
So this is good, because this is the thing is, when you build up a new department like yours, and when you're only 2 people, it's this connection with the other resources to sort of make sure that you don't. It's the added value, right? So you help them on when they see the occasionally you help with a concrete proposal, but they're complementary things, and then this is something where your people there, your stakeholders, so to say, your PIs, they probably love it. They probably not. Maybe they don't express so much. Researchers always the gratitude, but it's this is something that is really helpful.
Well, actually, we got a lot of very grateful feedback. I would say so.
That's good.
we have great people at FAU, and they were saying that often. Yeah.
Good, excellent. Appreciate what you do. This is a matter of capacity building, right? It's a matter of you building. Making them stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah, the individual researchers to sort of raise them, lift them up on a higher platform so they can, raise their chances to get that funding, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Sometimes I'm wondering a little bit about the postdoctoral fellowships in a way that they're so popular amongst researchers, and every year it gets tougher for them to receive the grants because this year I think the numbers raised from about 10,000 applications to 17,000, so around 65% more with a slightly decreasing budget. So you can do the math and think about success rates, and they weren't great before and they are not going to be better now. And still it seems that there is like an increasing interest and demand from researcher side to receive that grant. Of course, it's a very interesting funding line, but I'm a little bit worried about the statistics in that case. But yeah, let's see where this is going, and maybe someone from the commission listens and they decide to stock up the budget for postdoctoral fellowship. I don't think so, but yeah, this is definitely something that is needed. So yeah, would be great if more of the excellent proposals that are handed in would receive funding in the end.
Funding scheme structure. Funding scheme structure. It's horrible, isn't it? Right? And yeah, I was just about to go AI. Yeah. If it raises from 10,000 to 17,000, what has happened the last couple of years, right? So which factor could maybe be influencing a number to raise that much?
Yeah.
It still might not be like the quality might not, but it's just it's getting. I just saw some other flows in the news that for one call in where was that? It was on the Erasmus, I think, where the creativity part where they receive for one call 1,300 proposals. Try to calculate the success rate for that.
Yeah, better not.
It's just destructive. Yeah, but that's a totally different conversation now. But what we can just touch upon before we move on to the next block: do you also help with the local, German or federal funding sources?
No.
Okay, it's only international.
Actually, only EU. So everything that is EU funded.
All right, but that's also enough.
Yeah, we're not bored.
No, exactly. No. Let's move into the next block and talk a little bit about expanding the strategy. So building on top of your work. So how are you? Because it's rough. It's only two of you. And now it sounds like you start to get a little bit of a solid feet under your ground. You have a strategy. You're delivering and supporting, and you have met the institutes and so on. What are your thoughts about next steps in relation to the work you do?
So as we already said, we still need to become more known. There is a lot of work to be done there. We want to read proposals, actually. So there's, like Svenja said, we have done a lot of strategic work, and we are really happy that the actual job has now started and that we have daily business. This is something we really enjoy both. I think getting in touch with the researchers and talking to them, and most of them are really grateful, and there's so many interesting people and interesting ideas around. So this is really a very nice part of the job. We are very active in our network, so the regional network in Bavaria, the national network in Germany. So this is the network of EU research managers. And we want to keep networking in Brussels. This takes time, but it's extremely helpful because we think it's important to know the big picture to really understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. And we experienced that in Brussels. People in Brussels are actually interested to hear from us, from the universities, from the people working on the ground, so we can make a difference. And we would like to continue with that work.
Now, Brussels is a broad term. So, so indeed, the Commission wants to hear, and there's always an interesting listener, right? So you have the networks, you have the ecosystem around the Commission, and then you have the Commission itself, and the Commission is always open for input, right? They have their own sort of fora where you can step in. Are you part of any fora, and are you part of any sort of working groups in associations or something in Brussels yet?
So indirectly, because there is this Unilion informal working group of university representations in Brussels, and we have a colleague there from Bavaria that is representing like all Bavarian universities, and we are working very closely together with her. So yeah,
I remember that you have a Bavaria representation there, and you have, of course, your local sisters, like the TUM is there.
Exactly. So we talked to colleagues there. We talked to the Parliament, the European University Association, everybody that came to our mind. So really this research bubble, all these people that are working in the field, and they were all happy to talk to us and to exchange views.
Yeah. But so you've been in the city, right? You've been in Brussels before, yeah. So you know that it's a cacophonic place where it's quite. You can very easily waste your time in Brussels, right? It's a place where you so you know from experience that it's good to know who you need to talk to. Not so much with the one that just plapper, right?
and I know that it's part of their job. Like they have to listen, to people and to know as many views as possible. So that makes it much easier to get in touch with them, because I know they should.
Yeah, actually, I was a bit hesitant first time I was going to Brussels, and Martina told me, "Oh, you can contact this and that person and just meet up and talk." And I was like, "But how am I going to do that? Are they even open to listening to me or to talk to me?" And I was really surprised, as everybody that I contacted was like, "Yeah, sure, of course, let's meet and let's discuss." And it was always very interesting and very fruitful discussions that we had there. So you just have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit in the beginning. At least for me, it was that way. I'm not that person maybe to just contact some Well, but what am I saying? I contacted you randomly, so now I try to work on that and get out of my comfort zone in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the universities or research organizations that I know of that are engaged in Brussels, they try to zoom in, right, like a laser. So, okay, where do we put the focus, and then have some priorities around the technical areas the areas that the university is focused on, and then attach themselves to an association or other universities in a group. You have these organizations. What is it? This university. They are projects funded by Erasmus, aren't they?
European universities.
Yeah, European University Alliances. Yeah. So is that something that you have thought about, trying to step into something like this?
Well, we are in one actually. So
Oh, okay, yeah, but that's good. That's what I'm fishing at.
And we just met with our counterparts from the coordinating university in Madrid, and it was very, very, very nice. 3 days, and very good exchange, and a good start to work on that international network as well. Yeah.
Greetings to Madrid. I know that they're listening. Because they knew the podcast. Actually, they told me we were bragging a little bit that we are in a podcast now, and then they were like, "Oh, great, we have listened to that." So
that's good.
Well, I think not all of them, but
we are very happy here in the editorial office to hear that people are talking about the podcast. All right. Anything else on this corner? On your your next steps and networking and so
on? We would like to engage more with the faculties, and to better target our webinars, and because we did obviously more than the one workshop, to try what the needs are, or what would work, what the researchers need actually, and this is something we want to continue and see what works best. Yeah, because that's something we didn't find out yet, how to really reach the people with webinars or with information.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, I'm a little bit in the same process where I am working, where we are building up a service that's just on hydrogen industry. Yeah, but the method is the same basically. It's a matter of testing things and see how we engage best, and exactly this. We have done some in-person events and matchmaking stuff like this, but we're also going to look into how to play with the format of webinar, or playing with the format of what is it, virtual matchmaking, whatever. So this is something where there's also a small corner of the organization, so we also have to think about resources. So this sort of playing with also what technologies, develop technology, like AI, what can you do? Also, when you develop concepts, you can use the chat to help you to get structured around these things, how can do these things best, and so on and so forth. So it's I hear what you say, and I understand very well. Yeah, but we're almost done.
Very good.
Yeah. Now we have some reflections, always some reflections and some advice for the dear listeners. So what the key takeaways on reflections? What do you have? What has, if you look back the last year and a half?
I would say my advice is get the support from your leadership if you want to set up something like this.
Management.
Because this open doors, it makes work and life much easier. And it's sometimes you need to reach people that you wouldn't reach without somebody else helping you. So that's an important point. Have support.
Yeah, definitely important. My advice would be, well, maybe I'm thinking about like the last week a little bit. So, and I think it's super helpful if you exchange with somebody that is doing the same or a similar job, and just listen how they do stuff, and get inspired by others, and take the tiny bits that are like good for your work, and we're always trying to improve by that, and network with people that do the same or similar job as we do. And so it was, as Martina said, really great when we were in Helsinki, and also now in Madrid. So there are great people working in our field that have great ideas, and I think it makes sense to listen to them.
This is what researchers managers, they say whenever they meet in Yama or whatever. These it's a very strong community in between people, the research management community, and because it's so specific what you do, it's so 360-degree approach. It's human skills, it's hard technical skills, it's management skills, it's organizational skills. It's a lot of things you need to translations. It's everything, a lot of things in one pot. And it's difficult to, if you don't do it yourself, to really understand. So when you meet, it's like you all sort of, like flowers start to grow up, nice sound come out. Yeah, so that's that's what I get. It's a very, very strong community. So indeed. The Grand. Last thing before we shut down. This is a segment I have in all my episodes. The toughest challenge.
Yeah, toughest challenge.
And you got to define that yourself, because I made a mistake when I forwarded the wrong one.
And we took the opportunity and just took the challenge that we wanted to talk about the most.
What challenge do you want to talk about?
We have two toughest challenges.
Yeah, we have two toughest challenges because we are two people here. So,
so toughest challenge in
the toughest challenge in setting up a new research office. We wanted to talk about. So, my toughest challenge definitely was because as we said, we are a central service unit, but we are a very decentralized university, and it was really hard to. As you said, get down the line, and how do you reach first leadership of that faculties, but then how do you get to the PIs? How do you get to the researchers? And so that was definitely the toughest, and is still the toughest challenge for us.
Mm-hmm. And another toughest challenge was, or still is, even to pay attention, not to get lost in your day-to-day business or in the small tasks that you have on the table, but to always have in mind the big picture and the objectives that you want to reach. And you have to be patient, because this is a marathon.
It is, but a fun marathon.
Because you're only two. If you have large universities, right, then they have maybe 10 people sitting in the project support office, right? It's much easier to have then a team lead that keeps track on the strategic approach. Where are we with this and this? But you're only two, man.
Yeah.
So when you have if you have cold deadlines, and then strategic, things get.
That's it.
So our line to stay motivated is that we did the university did the first step in the right direction. And then once this is all done, we'll talk about more stuff.
Yeah, it's a tough time for that.
No. On that note, I'm just going to land the plane before we say goodbye to the listeners. So, dear listeners, thank you so much for listening to the end. Hope you enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did. If you like what you're hearing here, go to my platform, thegrand.eu. There you'll find a ton of podcast episodes. I'm narrowing in on 200 episodes. Soon going to reach that. So you'll find lots of content, especially on this research management. Campus Corner, I have a category called Campus, where if you click on Podcast Universe and Campus, you get a lot of episodes there on universities and research organizations, how they work with EU funding. So do that. And when you're in there and think, wow, this is a great website. Fantastic. Then go down to the bottom of each page, wherever you are, and you'll find an online form to subscribe to my email list. This is the humble way you can support a humble independent podcaster like myself. And finally, connect with me on LinkedIn. Go to look after Niels Tudor Winter. I'm the only one in the world with that name. So you will find me very easily. And while you're doing that, you can also go and like the Grand page on LinkedIn. So this is where all the information flows. This is where my promotion goes with each episode, and so on and so forth. And this also, as the motivation and intro for this episode, this is also where I pick up guests. Yeah. So if you want to be a guest on the show, don't be shy. Reach out. The time time to recording a podcast, from reach out to recording, it's very short if you really want to join. So feel free. No. Martina, Svenja, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having us.
No, it's been a pleasure. It's been very nice to hearing about how you're doing things. And indeed, always welcome back to share as you move on with your work if there's something specific you want to share with the listeners. So that's an open invitation from us.
All right, we'll get in touch.
Thank you.
Now let's say goodbye to the dear listeners. Bye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant. All the Grant episodes have their own site on the Grant website. You'll find the link to the episode site where you listen to your podcast. On the site for this episode, you'll find a link to Svenja and Martina's personal LinkedIn sites and a link to the university's website. Further, there's a link to the Postdoctoral Fellowship work program on the Marie Sklodowska Curie Action website. And there will also be a transcript from this episode, so you can use that in ChatGPT, for example, to get the information out that you want. Next week, I have a New Year's treat for you. Actually, it's a milestone for the grant. I finally have a European Commission representative as guest on the show. Eric Lecomte is Policy Officer in DG Energy, and he will take us all through the Strategic Energy Technology Plan, or just the SET plan, and the importance of the plan for the energy-related funding. Absolutely fantastic. Feel free to congratulate the grant. You can indeed look forward to that.